From this country that has ever been, I welcome each and every one of you to today's program of Flame of the West. From the great state of Indiana, I am your host, and I am pleased to have working studio and makeshift studio, my co-host Joe. And today we're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into this firestorm that's engulfed our nation. Folks, we're at a crossroads. We've got 4 stories today, all from this past week, that aren't just headlines. They're threads in a tapestry of chaos in attempt to really unravel our republic. From Minneapolis, from the riots, eerily echoing the '68 riots, to Trump's tariff hammer dropping like Reagan on the Soviets. We've got Democrats weeping for a dictator like they're at a funeral for freedom, and the U.S.'s withdrawal from the WHO, and how we are now all somehow much worse off, according to the Democrat Party. In this first hour, we're going to go through the unfortunate fatal ICE shooting in Minneapolis, and the escalating protests this week, as well as Trump dropping tariffs on Canada. In the second hour, we'll look at how the Democrats are still, like I just said, going through the Maduro mourn, and then we'll break down the glorious withdrawal from the WHO. All right, everybody, indulge for me for a moment. Close your eyes. Let's picture this. We've got a frozen city that's in revolt. Tariffs raining down like cannon fire across our northern border. Politicians mourning a tyrant as if he's their lost brother, and stepping away from a global organization that has taken our money like a teenager going to the movies every night.
Do they still do that? I mean, do they still go to the movies every night? It's like, I thought COVID ended that and nobody goes out and everybody stays in and just sticks on their phone and scrolls and everything.
You know, I don't think people go to the movies anymore, but it was a good analogy.
It's sad. There's a few good movies, but I don't know.
So none of this is a coincidence. It's clearly a pattern. It's clearly a war on our values, a war that shadows waiting to grab us, waiting to pull us down. So we're going to break it down. We're going to go through history. We're going to go through it with heart, and then we're going to have a call to arms, not physical arms, but yet a gracious call to arms and call to what we're supposed to do. So during the show, we ask God to open our eyes to the truth, steel our spines with courage, and remind us that freedom is never free. We here at Flame of the West give thanks to the men and women, the brave men and women who have given the ultimate sacrifice. And this includes our men and women in ICE, in Customs and Border Patrol, that are working so hard to keep our country safe. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, let's jump into the first topic. It's the shooting of, what was his name? Preety in Minneapolis. And they cannot sit still. The protest just will not stop. And it's like, dude, it's cold. Go home.
You know, it's funny. I never expected in this cold that they would be out in these numbers. I thought I thought for sure the cold would deter them to go home and sit by the fire.
Are they taking anything, like, is there any kind of substances that they're taking that are enabling them to be out in the cold.
Okay, so we're gonna break this down here. So our first segment, folks. Let's look. This is something that is clearly the straight out of this is an Alinsky tactic. Um, it's a clear rules for radicals tactic, and I mean we've got chaos in our streets. We've got agents.
Do you feel dirty picking that book up? Just dirty.
Yeah, you got to wash my hands every time after. We've got agents under fire. We've got radicals continuing to fan the flame. We've got ICE officers face down an armed suspect in a raid, gone deadly. The second one in weeks, sparking nothing but riots. And it really feels like a powder keg. You start watching these videos, you start seeing everything going on, and it looks like you're in the Middle East. I mean, it's horrific and sad.
Isn't that what was it James O'Keefe's security guy said? He was a Marine, if I remember right, and he said it looked worse than what he saw in the Middle East.
Yeah, yeah. He was a I believe it was right. It's a Marine, and he said it was just like nothing he'd ever seen before. I mean, this isn't about justice. This is a tear down of the rule of law. But this is America, and justice will always prevail.
You want it to. So it looks like a dystopia. Yeah. Minnesota looks like a Fallout world almost. At least in Minneapolis, what we're seeing, it's like there's no rule. The police aren't helping the ICE agents. And what was it? Somebody said that they ought to call them the National Immigrations and Customs. So now the news people got to say, oh, they're nice agents now.
Yeah, that was a good little little jab, kind of a twist of the knife. I thought that would be a funny tweak for the administration to rename that.
Now, honestly, we do have to talk about the shooting. Somebody did die, and that's always sad. I mean, if somebody sticks themselves out in the front of the police, they do. It's the old saying: play stupid games, get stupid prizes. Now, it doesn't mean we don't feel sorry for the guy, but let's discuss that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's turn to the city that's become a battleground for the soul of America, the city that unfortunately needs no introduction, Minneapolis. Over the last few days, specifically January 24th through the 26th, the streets have been filled with complete disorder that goes far beyond peaceful protests. This is not about immigration policy. It's not, especially not just about immigration policy. It's about whether a major American city can be shut down by mobs, whether the federal officers carrying out lawful duties can be left defenseless, and whether our leaders have the will to restore order without apology.
Again, we got to wonder why Minneapolis, why Minnesota. I mean, it's. I mean, we're in a suburb of Fort Wayne right now, and Fort Wayne is such a small city. There's no trouble going on in Fort Wayne, but Fort Wayne's bigger than Minneapolis. Fort Wayne is bigger than Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So why such a dinky little city in such a cold place? Again, what are they doing? How are they still protesting? It's colder than, well, can't say, but it's colder than heck out there, and they're still out in the streets and protesting.
Yeah, it's definitely cold, and I did a little bit of looking. I don't know if this is all of it. I don't even know if this is part of it, but it's just something interesting to look at. If you go back to, let's all step back, and I know a lot of us listening are going to be of the younger generation, but if we step back to 1984 for just a minute, that was a little bit before my time, and the Reagan's beautiful victory in his second election. The only state that went blue was Minnesota. The only state.
To be fair, the person that he was running against was Walter Mondale from Minnesota. So, I mean, even Mondale knew he was toast when Reagan said, "I will not make my opponent's lack of skill a factor in this election." So he knew he was toast. But Minnesota still voted for it. And if you look at I think the election maps for the last 10 presidential elections, Minnesota has gone Democrat every time.
Yeah, if you take that map from um, 80, 84,
Yeah.
even all the way up to current day, it still has been blue every single election. Now, I'm not saying that is the reason, but it clearly states, it clearly shows to me, anyways, that okay, there's something going on in Minnesota that has changed that. I don't know. That's just that was kind of my take. I thought that was an interesting find when I was digging through some stuff.
Or could it be that it's nothing to do with Minnesota per se? Okay. And we always get goofy stuff like this happening during election years. And yes, this is not a presidential election year, but this is a congressional election year. You have some Senate seats up, and the Democrats are trying like the Dickens to take over Congress because all they want to do is shut down everything, gridlock everything, and impeach Trump. Impeach Trump. It's like, I mean, they hate this man so much that they're willing to cause mass chaos in our country in a cold city and in the middle of winter to make it look so terrible. It's like, yeah, I'm at a loss sometimes, you know.
Yeah, and you know that you just pointed that. That's exactly right. Identity politics. It's all about politics. Yes, it is an election year, and it's even though, like you said, it's not a presidential election year, but this is still very important. You know, they are pulling out all the stops. It is they they have to take back control of the Senate and the House. And at this point, they're gonna result to calling us, you know, the horrific
Everything they
God,
can in the book.
and everything else that we can think of, you know.
Yeah, the fascists, the sexists, the bigots, the homophobes, all that stuff. They pull out all that stuff every time. It's like, okay, please. I mean, if we were fascists, y'all would know it because we got all the guns. We would be if we were really fascists. I mean, the conservatives in this country, yeah, we would take it. I mean, we would take it over. Each side is.
We've got our producer handing us notes that we can't read here, folks.
And yeah, and she's right. Each side is calling each other evil, and there obviously is a side. Now, we're biased, of course, but there obviously is a side who does espouse evil beliefs. The left is they're for abortion, they're for legalizing hard drugs, they're for euthanasia, all kinds of stuff that goes completely against the teachings of God. And so, I mean, yes, we have our faults. Everybody has their faults. We're all sinners, but and yes, each side is going to in an election, each side is going to call each other side evil. But for heaven's sakes, when you're for abortion, when you're for euthanasia, when you're for legalizing street drugs and all that stuff, is like, man, you have no room to talk.
Yeah, it's just it just makes you wonder why are Democrats so quote unquote supportive of, yeah, so you're exactly right, it's the money. And they are trying so hard. And you notice that it just so happened when Nick Shirley uncovered all this fraud. What happened? All of a sudden we have all these protests. Divert. You know, we don't want to, look over here. You don't want to see what this hand is doing. And exactly. Yep. It's
And
all
that's
about.
another topic eventually. Yeah, it that comes in here when she's right. When that capture happened, I mean, Minneapolis was going crazy to begin with, but they're like, oh, we got to take because that was a victory for Trump, whether you like it or not. Getting Maduro out is good for Trump, but it's good for all of us because the Democrats back when Biden was president, they wanted to get rid of Maduro. Biden had $100 million bounty on his head, I think, wasn't it? Maybe 10 million, but a significant amount of money. It was a lot of money. So he had a huge bounty on him. So yeah, getting rid of Maduro is 50 million. And getting rid of Maduro is a good thing. So they want to take away any victory for Trump.
Yeah. It's really quite remarkable the lengths that they're going to to attempt to attempt to attempt to claim victory, you know. And it's like, you and I look at it and go, this isn't victory. This isn't even close to something that we want to acknowledge as a victory, or and it's like the Democrats are trying so hard, but yet they are it's just it's just wicked, and we don't fight like that, and I don't even want to call this a fight, but we're not gonna, I mean, yeah, we are fighting for the soul of our country. We are fighting constantly for the soul of our country, but their fight is not our fight. It doesn't even look remotely identical. I mean, we don't burn buildings.
No, I can't see how they can look at what's going on in Minnesota and say that there's a victory. That they're having unrest in the streets. There's people getting killed, and anybody with half a brain in their, well, I mean, that may have answered the question, but anybody with half a brain in their head would look at what's going on. It's like, oh my goodness, look what we've done to this city. Is this really what we want for our country? It's like, well, it goes back to that book, and I'm not touching that book, but it goes back to that book, Rules for Radicals. You destabilize, destabilize, destabilize.
Yeah, yeah, it's all about destabilization, and that's really all they want to do. Is they just want to. It's all about power and it's about money. I mean, that's really all that it is. So, what do you got?
Interesting theory here. So our producer just passed me this and said, I think the Dems have someone in the White House, a mole or something, feeding info of future events to pay protesters to make Republicans look evil. I mean, you're getting into some conspiracy theories, but in politics, there's always going to be some filth and power hungry people because there's that money.
And it's funny you say that because I agree with that, a little bit of that conspiracy theory, but yet we just heard the other day. I don't know if you saw this, but Marco testifying to Congress, the great Marco Rubio, who holds like 7 positions.
Marco, who does everything
Yeah, right.
possible. He's going
Yeah.
to be the Vance's nanny,
Yeah,
right?
he's gonna be, so but he had said that they had found that the Maduro raid was leaked prior to, even though they kept it so secret, it was still leaked. So they're trying to discover who did it, but it was still leaked, even though they kept it so capped.
So is somebody possibly in the administration, the White House, in the War Department somewhere that they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They really ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, it's like who do you trust? And Trump comes in as an outsider. I mean, he doesn't know any of these people, and he's just relying on everybody's recommendation. But you've got people that have been there for life recommending these people, and they're all it's so wicked. They're all in cahoots together.
Something that you noticed in I think the protests you saw either in Indianapolis or up in Fort Wayne, that kids getting out of school have professional looking signs, and those events are happening like this. And how are they getting these professional looking signs made? I mean, if I was a kid in high school, when I was in high school, I had a little money because I had a newspaper out, but I'm not going to blow it on a dang political sign. I'm going to go out and get a bottle of pop and a bag of chips before school.
Yeah, that this was all fun, and yeah, there was a few schools down. I know for certain that were down closer to Indianapolis that did let out for these so-called ice out protests, and they did. There was photos on the news of them with professional signs. It's like, where do these signs come from? Are these our tax dollars paying for these signs, or are these that begs the question. I mean, we know that there has been that it's that the protesters is being paid in Minneapolis. We know that all of this is. I mean, there's money being exchanged big time. But I mean, if my tax dollars are funding some of this, I mean, people better start screaming. I mean, that's just uncalled for.
No doubt. I mean, if that's what our taxpayers are paying for, or tax dollars are paying for, man, I want a tax cut. I mean, oh my gosh, tax cut. Yes, I want a tax cut because I got stuff I need to pay for. I'm going to pay for car repairs and for food and vet bills and all kinds of stuff. We got stuff we need to pay for. I'd rather go to that than paying for some doofy kids to get out of school and protest.
Yeah. Yes,
Now, I do apologize to any doofy kids who are getting out of school to protest. You're probably like, oh, yeah, great, we're getting out of school to protest. But look, you're kind of being doofy.
Yeah, and really, a lot of these kids, they didn't care. It's free. It's a free day from school. Who cares? You know.
You had somebody come to you and say, oh, you're going to get a day off of school if you come out and protest ICE. I was like, Dar, what's ICE? I was like, it's not that thing you put in your, no, it's no, but you got to come out and protest because Trump bad, evil orange man bad.
It's all about Orange Man bad. So, okay, so let's jump into this. We've got on the morning of the 14th of January, which just so happened to be last month. 24th, excuse me, 24th. That would have been a little while ago. But on the 24th, we had ICE agents executing a removal order on a 37-year-old man named Alex Peretti. According to official statements from the Department of Homeland Security and ICE Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, Peretti produced a firearm during the encounter and pointed it at officers, prompting an agent to fire multiple shots in self-defense. Peretti was killed. This was not a random sweep of innocent residents. Peretti was known to the police and ICE just a week prior. He was seen in a video screaming obscenities at ICE while kicking their vehicle, ultimately busting out a taillight, which prompted agents to temporarily detain Peretti. And during that detainment, Peretti sustained several minor injuries for not complying and resisting arrest, which we've seen time and time again. And we've got ICE's mission was to remove an individual already ordered. So the mission that Peretti stopped them from completing was a mission where they were going to remove an individual who was already on the list from an immigration judge to deport. So the facts are clear. This was a targeted enforcement against a criminal alien under federal law, but yet we had somebody who thought they had to play hero and bring a firearm. And don't get me wrong, I am 110% pro Second Amendment. I believe in the right to carry, but you just it's like taking a firearm and then pointing it at officers. I mean, that's just he had every right to have that firearm. He had every right to have it there, but yet when that firearm left the holster, that was the problem.
It's a lack of common sense, or it's somebody wanting to be a martyr. Now, we've been hearing from the news the last couple of days that, oh, this guy was such a peaceful guy, such a wonderful guy, such a great nurse, and I don't know his status and his medical license or anything like that, but I mean, when you're standing out there screaming at police cars and you're not and kicking taillights, and believe me, I mean, I've never tried to kick a tail light out, but it is a hard thing to do to try to kick apart a car. It's not easy. I mean, and he just knocked the tail light off. And you all have probably seen the video of this guy doing this, and he's not acting like a saint and not acting like an innocent bystander by doing that and pulling. I mean, whether he pulled a gun, whether he had a gun, whether it was removed from him, when you if you go into a protest, it's just not good common sense to bring your gun to that. I mean, again, yes, we're both pro Second Amendment through and through, but if you're at a protest, you bring a gun, you're just asking for trouble.
Yeah, it was that was that was clear. I mean, there's a few things that yeah, you can do while owning a firearm, but things that common sense would tell you probably not to do.
Yeah,
You know, taking a gun to a bar, you can do it,
but should
but
you?
is it really smart? Is it really smart?
No.
So after we see Preddy and all of this happened within hours, if that, the city was engulfed in protest. Crowds gathered, streets were blocked, federal vehicles surrounded. Agents found themselves trapped inside hotels, restaurants, unable to move freely. And local police were instructed not to respond to emergency calls from any of those agents. This was just prior to Trump having his um, meeting with Waltz and Governor Fry. This happened just prior.
Same day.
It could have very well been the same day, yeah. But it was just prior. So this was before Trump kind of dropped the hammer here, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But but we got to look. This is not a minor detail. This means to everybody out there that American citizens that happen to be wearing federal badges and under federal orders were effectively denied basic protection while carrying out their duties. Reports and videos are clear, and they show where windows smashed, graffiti sprayed. I mean, the atmosphere became one of open intimidation. You had by January 26th, still a couple days later, you had demonstrations that had continued to grow by the tens of thousands. They're running down the street. We've got proof here showing that the labor unions were backing this. Labor unions from
Which unions were they? Do you know?
So they were. Let me pull my notes here. We had. I'll zoom in because it made it so small here.
Gotta zoom yourself in or use that
Right.
touchscreen or computer.
Yeah, this one's not touchscreen, so. Okay, so we had funding coming from billionaire Neville Roy Singham. He's a progressive group tied to anti-ICE protests. We had funding coming from the Minnesota AFL-CIO, which is the American Federation of Labor and the Congress of Industrial Organizations, representing over 1,000 unions. So they had that was found. They were endorsing all of that and giving money. We had MIRAC, which is Minnesota Immigration Rights and Action Committee. They were leading the organizing. ACLU has conducted the quote ICE Out for Good weekends.
Wait,
I mean
the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, and
Yep.
they do come down on both sides sometimes. And in this one, they're really coming down on the left on this. It's just it's crazy.
If you start digging in too, I just saw and they're flying this under the radar, but Black Panthers are back. They're back.
And we are not talking about Wakanda
Yeah.
forever. We're talking about
We're
we're not talking about the Black Panther in Marvel universe. We're talking about the it's a Black Power group or something like that. The Black Panthers.
Yeah, the Black Panthers that back in Malcolm X day destroyed everything. Yeah, that Black Panther group. So yeah, I mean we've got more. Let's see, we've got the American Action of University Professors. They're also endorsing this, calling a powerful response from labor movement.
So it's a lot of people are backing this. A lot of people silently backing this, basically. Not
yeah.
nice people.
Yeah, we've got, and even if you look, there's a lot of money coming from Soros's Open Society Foundation, and that's. I mean, we can go on and on and on about that, but that is just, I mean, diving deep into it.
Oh my, that's a theory. So our producer's theory is that Antifa changed the name back to Black Panthers.
It wouldn't surprise me. They were probably Black Panthers to begin with.
We probably we've got to be careful with that one. But I mean, there's got to be people who were part of Black Panthers before Antifa even came around, and we know back in the 2020 election, Black Panthers were intimidating people in Philadelphia. That's beside the point, though. But so anyway, yeah, we're going on and on the labor unions. Yeah, we get it. The labor unions, the teachers, they're all back in this, and it's not doing anybody any good. It's just causing more unrest and chaos. And after January 26th, we saw videos of the protesters breaking in hotels, smashing windows, and just making a nuisance of themselves. They're not even they're trying to make it so those ICE agents can't rest, can't get it. And you know, I'm not saying that shooting somebody in self-defense is ever a good thing. If you have, if it comes down to it, you have to do it. You have to do it. But with what's going on, come on. I mean, how many of us normal people would be half as disciplined, one tiny bit as disciplined as these ICE agents are? I mean, they aren't. There's been two shootings, and they both have been justified, and these people are making a terrible nuisance of themselves. I mean, these guys, instead of getting vilified on TV, I think they ought to be getting medals for not going out and just being trigger happy.
When it's tough because I look at that from videos and TV and things, and I couldn't do it. There's no way I could ever do it. You couldn't, you know.
You need a discipline.
You know, I need Mr. Miyagi to teach me. Um, but in all seriousness, I could never do what they do. I mean, it's the sheer restraint. I would have one Karen in my face screaming, and I would go berserk. I couldn't do it. So I have so much respect for these men and women that do it. Not just ICE, but all law enforcement, because that's got to be a tough job. I mean, it's really. I mean, especially we're seeing, because they've made it public, everything that's going on with ICE. But all law enforcement's got to be tough.
You know, we're looking at this, and all these people are throwing fits. They're making a battle of it, and I mean, in the long run, as Christians, we have to know that even all this disturbance going on, we're still on the winning side. We've already won. Um, what are we? And there's probably going to be a lot of people. What do you guys as Christians? What do you guys as Catholics think about this? What's the response to what should we be thinking? I mean, I think it's nuts, and like I said, I wouldn't be. Neither of us would have been very disciplined if any of these protests are getting up in our face and screaming and hollering, shouting obscenities, spitting everything. What are we to do?
Yeah, and that's a great point. So, um, as Catholics, you and I especially, but offering kind of a more Christian response to the rest of the world here. Um, we must be honest about what this represents. The church teaches in Romans 13 that governing authorities are established by God to promote good and restrain evil. When lawful officers are prevented from doing their job, when they are left without protection, and when mobs are allowed to dictate policy, we are witnessing the breakdown of that order. At the same time, the gospel calls us to compassion for every human person, which we know this. I mean, we see this time and time again, and it's everybody, not the immigrant and the citizen alike. The Catechism of the Catholic Church affirms that nations may regulate immigration for the common good while still welcoming those in genuine need. And we have a right, we have a duty, we have an obligation to help those people. And but we right now we've become so overrun, we can't even help our own people. And I think that's what the Trump administration, that's what they're trying to do is we've got to take a step back. All of these people that are overwhelming our system, we have to stop. We have to get them out. We have to move. We have to start from square one again. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. That's what it looks like from my seat. We've got to get back to, okay, everything was just chaos especially for the last 4 years, and now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we it's overwhelmed. We don't know what to do. So we just got to take a step back, and we've got to say, okay, this is one by one. We're going to have to get rid of these people. Then we're going to have to go back, and I would hope that the Trump administration, after this is hopefully successful, what they're doing, hopefully they'll look back and go, okay, now we can take a step back. We can look at all of these people that are in need. Are these people still here? Are there anybody that is in medical need? All of that kind of stuff. Are these people, you know, let's fast track them if they have productive members of this society have contributed to that. Is there a way that we can help and we can fast track? Because ultimately that's what we want. We want people that are going to be productive. They're going to be helpful to society. And the last thing we need is the drugs. That's the goal, is to get that out.
Um, and back to the borders, I remember a while back, and Pope Leo even said, "Yes, nations have to have secure borders." I'm obviously paraphrasing him. I'm not Holy Father. Forgive me if you see this, and I doubt he'll see this for a long time. But I'm not directly quoting you, and I'm sorry, but um, he said, "Yeah, nations do need secure borders. We're not out there saying you can't have secure borders, but you do have to be Christian to people coming and going." But being Christian to people isn't giving them everything, letting everybody come in either. That's just not right. Um, but what's going on in Minnesota? It's radical activism. It's not immigration. It's crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, it's just it is pure chaos. And there's no way to tiptoe around that. So the tragedy in Minneapolis is that of clear radical activism, with an insidious agenda that has turned a debate about policy into a rejection of any kind of enforcement at all. This path that path leads not to justice but to chaos, and chaos always hurts the most vulnerable. And it's clear that this is not. I mean, this is hurting the weak. This is hurting the people that are most in people that are most in need. And let's not be confused. These people, um, and when I say these people, I mean the people um, that are in power. They clearly want this chaos. I mean,
Well,
just take a.
Walls and Fry, and the Democrats in power. It's given them a leverage to say, "Oh, look what's going on. The ICE agents can't control things. Trump is out of control. Trump is crazy. Blah blah blah."
Yeah. Yeah, and they are, it's like, yeah, the tone that they're using through all of this, it's and Walz has said how he wants us to turn down the heat. But he's not turning down the heat. I mean,
He's making it worse. He's out there saying you got to stand up, you got to fight, you got to bring all your weapons to the fight, um and I'm trying to be nice to these people, but they don't make it very nice. Walls and Fry, they're nuts. We look at it from the outside, yeah, and it's probably, we shouldn't say that, but my gosh, when you're out there dancing on stage like a goofball, like Fry does, and Walls is, they're going to be mocked a little bit for being goofy, but no, they are honestly, yes, they're honestly doing stuff to foment this, and they're pushing it.
oh yeah, it's very clear that this is being fomented, um, and uh, and they have
Word of
no
the day,
no
folks, fomented.
they have no intention. They have no intention of slowing down. And you even looked after the president had his phone call with Fry. I mean, he came right out and he said, "We have no intention of following federal immigration law."
No, it's like
Oh,
Fry just like, "Oh yeah, Mr. President, yeah, Mr. President." Then all of a sudden he comes out to this bucket of gas and pulls a Zippo out right there underneath it. It's insane.
yeah, it's just crazy. So after all of this, just like we said, into this dangerous situation steps President Trump. Rather than immediately sending in an overwhelming federal force, he's chosen a different path. And he could have very well sent in a federal force, but he decided he chose a different path, one that conservatives should study very closely. On the 25th of January, President Trump spoke directly to Governor Walz. The offer was very straightforward and pragmatic. If Minnesota law enforcement would protect federal agents, respond to their emergency calls, and share basic information about criminal aliens in local jails, the federal government would significantly scale back its visible presence in the city. Crowd control and day-to-day public safety would remain primarily a local responsibility, which it should, with federal forces stepping back unless absolutely necessary to protect courthouses, federal buildings, and other critical assets. This is how it should have been from the beginning, folks. This is this is all that ever this is all that needs to be done. Period. This is all we need to do. No one would even care about ICE doing their job, not until the media and their local politicians got in the way. Don't forget, they are directly responsible, and they meaning the politicians, and I believe this wholeheartedly. I think they are directly responsible for the uprising and for all of this chaos that is being caused.
You know, sometimes, I mean, making fun of people brings light to causes, and it can pull down the temperature. And sometimes it shows people how ridiculous things are. You're dealing with somebody who knows way more about what they're doing than you do with President Trump, and especially with Homan. You know,
Yeah, and I completely agree. So you know, and it's like I understand Governor Walz is under mounting pressure from both sides, and his shockingly he's agreed to cooperate all of this. Um, as a result, the result was the deployment of none other than Tom Homan, former acting ICE director, now turned border czar, to Minneapolis on the 26th of January. Homan's assignment is clear: coordinate with local authorities to de escalate tensions while continuing targeted removals of criminal aliens. This is not a retreat. I want to reaffirm this. This is not a retreat. I say again, this is not a retreat. This is a deliberate choice by the president to restore order without unnecessary escalation. It shows that strong leadership can turn a crisis into an opportunity, and we're very fortunate to have such a strong leader in the White House, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. But
no,
he is leading.
I think a lot of us, if we're following this sort of podcast, we may have seen. And I know you sent me a video. Glenn Beck did a whole segment on what's going on with this, and it's the art of the deal. Trump is he is rope a doping. He is rope a doping Tim Walz. He really is. He's saying, "Okay, I'll give in a little bit. I'll give in a little bit," but it's not really giving in. And then he takes out Greg Bavino, who to to be fair, Bavino did do some things that maybe weren't the greatest, and instead of
Bavina's a little he's out there, you know, and he's a very hard ball, you know, which we needed, I think, right at first. But
understood. But then, oh, we'll take this crazy guy out of it, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Bavino's crazy," but then Trump says, "Okay, all right, we'll take this crazy guy out of there. We'll take him out of there, but in his place, we're going to send the bear." It's like we're taking out General Eisenhower, and we're sending in Patton. And there's a connection there. It's like Trump wrote the book on this stuff, and it's an apocryphal line that literally wrote the book on that. Back in World War II, General Patton, when he defeated Rommel in the desert, he said, and they said, so somebody asked him, "Well, how'd you defeat Rommel so easily?" And Patton said, "I read his book." Now, Rommel didn't really write a book, but Patton studied it, and he studied Rommel. He knew exactly what he was going to do. So maybe the Democrats ought to try. I mean, read this book. They're not watching us here, obviously. They're not sitting here watching us talking. But dude, if you don't want to get rope-a-doped, right there.
read the book, folks. Okay, so taking a step back here, conservatives, you know, us as conservatives, especially those in power, should really recognize the wisdom in this approach. Trump did not rush to federalize the National Guard, nor invoke any extraordinary powers. But he had every right to do so. I mean, it was very clear and apparent that he had every right to do so. And none of us would have blamed him for it. I mean, I know I wouldn't have. I mean, I was begging him to do it at one point.
And people say amen.
But um, you know, instead, he used the leverage of impeding escalation to secure cooperation from a reluctant Democrat governor. The outcome is
I think you mean impending escalation. You said impeding.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want to impede escalation. You don't want to, yeah. So
You know what I meant. So the outcome is a potential reduction in the streets, in street violence, while still advancing the core mission of removing dangerous individuals from American communities. That is prudence in action. The kind of leadership this country needs so desperately. The kind of leadership that Minnesota needs so desperately, and the kind of leadership that the church praises when rulers seek the common good through reason and restraint. We have to be clear. We have to be clear-eyed about the stakes. If Minneapolis is allowed to become a city where federal law is openly defied, where agents are left unprotected, and where mobs set the agenda, then really every sanctuary jurisdiction in the country will take note. This message will be sent that lawlessness works, and that cannot stand. As Catholics, as you and I as Catholics, and as Christians, we are called to pray for peace, for the safety of officers and citizens, for the conversion of hearts on every side, and for our leaders who will govern with justice and mercy. But prayer must be accompanied by action. We must demand that our elected officials uphold the rule of law, support the brave men and women of ICE, and reject any ideology that treats this kind of disorder as a legitimate form of political expression. Look, folks, Minneapolis is unfortunately not an isolated event. This is a preview of what happens when radicalism overrides reason. Thanks to President Trump's decisive yet measured leadership, this is now a pathway to restore calm while still enforcing the law. Conservatives, and frankly all Americans, should support that effort, hold our leaders accountable, and continue to make the case that a nation without secure borders and respect for lawful authority is a nation that cannot long endure.
you say it's not an isolated event, and we hope to goodness this does become an isolated event, even though there's other cities that want to cause all this stuff going on. You said there's protests in Indy and Fort Wayne, and for heaven's sake, I saw on the news in close to where we live that they're trying to cause trying to cause outrage in Springfield, Ohio. You all remember the mess with the Haitians in Springfield a couple years ago during the election. Their protected status is going away, and they're trying to cause trouble over in Springfield now. Ohio now is a very red state, and most people in Springfield, if there's unrest, they're just going to be like, "Yeah, no, we're not for that." I mean, they're not. And if anybody's out in force in places like Springfield, Ohio, or Fort Wayne, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, it's not people. I mean, by and large, it's probably people from there, but if it starts getting big, they're busting in people because Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, we're not going to support that kind of stuff. I mean, and that may be going back to the whole beginning of the segment. That may be why it's Minneapolis, because it is so ready for that. Oh, we believe orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad. So maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is, they can do it in Minneapolis because they have the backing there. People like you and I, we're not. I'm not going to Minneapolis to protest. You know, I mean,
It's cold enough here. Why would I go there?
No kidding. And it's like they know better than to bring that here. They know better than to try that here. I'm sure. I mean, we get at our courthouse downtown. You get your dozen or so protests, and they have the right to do that. They have every right to be out there with
Absolutely,
signs.
that's what the First Amendment says.
Peaceful, and they can't. It's like the First Amendment, once it becomes violent and burning, but the First Amendment doesn't protect you burning a building. It doesn't protect you throwing.
It's the old "don't scream fire" in a theater, a crowded theater, which actually would be protected by the First Amendment, if I remember correctly.
Correct, but it doesn't protect you destroying businesses. It doesn't protect you, going around and setting fire to dumpsters. It doesn't support that. And for people, and it even surprisingly, it even doesn't support you going into a house of worship, disrupting that worship service, pulling the pastor down, and questioning them on camera, as we saw with Don Lemon. You know,
Or as our producer calls him, Lemonhead.
so yes, the First Amendment is sacred. We have to protect it, and even speech must be protected, even if you and I don't agree with it.
But it also goes along with common sense. If you're going out there trying to stir up riots, if you go out there inciting a riot, that's literally a crime. Inciting a riot is a crime. But I was just using my right to speak. No, sir, you were inciting a riot. And I think that, I mean, you could legitimately go after Walls and Fry Guy for that, because they are literally inciting riots.
Yeah, there's definitely no question about any of that.